I'm Peter Janetzki, and joining me is Dr. Monique White, and we're going to be talking about the Graduate Certificate in Applied Neuroscience at Christian Heritage College in Brisbane. So thanks for taking time to join with me, Monique.
No worries. Yeah.
Monique, tell us about your PhD.
Yeah. Well, actually, to form a good basis for it, I just need to give you some history about why I actually did it. Because as a general rule, I'm not a wonderful academic. I struggled in high school. I barely passed year 12, couldn't write a sentence to save myself. So, I mean, I am a living example of what the power of the brain and the power of neuroplasticity in being able to reinvent yourself, so to speak. So what happened in my family, we've struggled with a lot of mental health issues, and predominantly my mum. My mum suffered from severe depression, and for many years, on several occasions, she's tried to take her own life. And one of those occasions was in hospital when I was called to quickly be with her. I then, in that time when she was unpacking why she did it, I then promised her that I would do something to look at the neurological reasons why people suffer from severe depression and why they would want to take their life. And then also professionally, in talking about teaching, I actually became a hospitality PE teacher. You know, those prac subjects where you don't have to read and write, you just do. So that was me. And I guess I love teaching because I love being able to touch those kids who did struggle with school, because I related very well with them. But I did notice over the 25 years of my high school teaching, the decline in the ability of kids to be able to manage their mental health, to be able to cope with challenges, setbacks, and problems in their life. And so between my mum and between that, I'm like, okay, I really need to do something about this. So I began to study what was happening and the neuroscience behind it. And in that space, I found that actually we're in just such a wonderful time in history where people are actually finding out what's happening in the brain. And there are neurological reasons for anxiety, mental health issues, depression, and so on. And in this case, for both of them, I began to look at, well, why are people giving up? I mean, my mum, in trying to take her life, she's like, I can't do this anymore, giving up. The students in my class, I hate school, I just want to give up. I don't want to go to school, and so on. And so, and in my mind, that boiled down to resilience. But when I looked deeper into that, resilience actually was a real clinical word, and it looked at socioeconomic status, all that sort of stuff, and I didn't want to go there. So what I then began to research, and what I feel was just an amazing imagery that I got given, was the term buoyancy. And so what that did for me was gave a visual. I mean, because the brain loves stories, the brain loves visuals, and it's hardwired for that sort of imagery. Was that I was able to use the term buoyancy, and where the kids could then hang their thoughts on that, oh, Mrs. White, I'm really struggling, I'm really sinking, I feel like I've hit rock bottom, I'm drowning, all those types of things, and we're able to verbalize their problems. And then what I could then do is, as I was going into the neuroscience behind all of this imagery, is be able to then look at the principles behind neuroscience and be able to build a program that was able to then teach these kids about what's happening in their brain and give them some principles and strategies and ways in which they can then become more buoyant it was, and what I thought was more like the neuroeducation program that I built was like a life ring that kept them above the waves. So rather than when the problems of life came and the struggles and the trials, all those waves would come crashing, but that buoyancy and those strategies and those skills that they learned through the program could actually keep them above water, and be able to manage the trials of life. So I made a good visual with that, and then the kids were able to use that to formulate and express how they were feeling and be able to apply some of those strategies. So at the end of the day, I then tested whether this program actually worked, and formulated my PhD around it, and hence that then became a program that I've been running in schools, and now I'm using the program and the strategies to work with kids coming out of lockup, so working with delinquents, and those students and those people who are reinventing themselves after being in prison and so on. So yeah, so I'm running it in a number of different places, and people are appreciating it, and some of the comments are like, how come nobody's told us about that before? So and it just makes a heap of sense, and it's providing some hope, I guess, for people who thought that their brain was fixed, which it's not.
For those who are watching, I just want to highlight, I teach half the applied neuroscience. There's 4 units. I teach 2, you teach 2. And my background is I taught for a while, and again, manual arts and PE, so hands-on subjects. And so there's us teaching to each other. So why do you teach in this program?
Oh, look, seriously, who I am today, as opposed to the person before my PhD, and that learning are 2 different things. Like I also have struggled with depression most of my life, and it's quite hilarious actually, because a lot of the principles that I bring to the Applied Neuro CHC course, I actually learned whilst I was doing my PhD, and so in my personal study, and I've seen how it's changed me. So now I just have that passion, and I know the difference it's made in my life, and I also want to bring that to the table as well. And in that I've seen how neuroplasticity physically works. And so, for instance, even too, when I went through this PhD, because like I said, I was hopeless at writing, I then thought, well, hang on a second, Monique, you're teaching these people, so how hypocritical of you not to apply it to your own life. So literally the lessons that I brought to my students, I then had to apply. But they also loved that too. So for instance, those who are doing this course, even if they do struggle with reading and writing and study in general, what they're going to learn in there is going to not only make a difference in their life, but you can't help but talk about it with others because of the struggles that people are having in life. It comes into all of our conversations. So I love the fact that I can share now out of my experience, and then others who are seeing this and going, well, if she can do it, then maybe I can do it. And then they might have kids of their own who are struggling with school, and then they can share it with them or their students and so on. So it becomes a snowball effect of us sharing out of the abundance of our heart and with others what we've learned, and the principles that we can apply. So yeah, I love the topics, and I love it's just so applicable to life today, whether it be anxiety, depression, mental health, whether it be just learning these new things and seeing how amazing technology is to be able to look into the brain, and seeing those changes and seeing like what science can do. So yeah, it's phenomenal.
Monique, I love your passion, and I think it's important to highlight that, the same is true for me, is that this program is not a data dump of just learning knowledge. It's very much applicable to our work and to our own lives. Yeah. And that's why I teach it, because neuroscience has transformed my life because I live with generalised anxiety, so it's really important. Let's give it a quick overview is that in the 4 units, students can do 1 or 2 a semester, but each unit is structured where there's 1 week, it's a face-to-face lecture via Zoom in this forum that we're doing right now, and then the alternative week is a self-directed learning, and so therefore it's like in the 12 weeks, there's 6 face-to-face lectures, 6 self-directed, and lots of interaction, but it's not sit back and be academic and all medico and sciencey. It's about taking the science and how does this work with people?
Yeah, and how does that work for you? Because so for instance, yes, so when you're doing it, and the best part about it is you've got the passion of both Peter and I, and so 1 week you have Peter, 1 week you have me, and so on. And our courses complement each other. They dovetail with one another, and they actually will speak to one another. So even though you might be doing 2 courses at a time, they actually really merge and succinct, and they build on one another, which is wonderful. And even in the courses, what I would normally do is just give you an introduction and then take you through different elements of the course. Now, the way I've built it up is that if I'm not interested in it, I don't include it. So, for instance, if a reading or a video or anything doesn't capture me in the first few minutes, then I know it's not going to capture anybody else. So I just make sure that everything that I include is something that's going to really speak to us, or speak to what practitioners or educators and so on will actually need, whether they can apply it to their life, to their professional life, or even to their personal life. And then I try and make sure that I've connected different things. So it's not just all reading and it's not just all video watching. And I make some H5P activities just to check that people have got it. And all of those activities, they're all interactive, so that it's like, oh, well, this is fun. Oh, I do understand that. Oh, actually, I might need to work on that one. But none of those, that's all formative. That's not summative. And so just to find some interaction, because, you need all these different things. You need novelty, you need experience, all that sort of stuff. So we don't want people falling asleep. The other thing is that I also put it behind everything, how long it's going to take. So recognizing that some people might be traveling different places, so they can do their course online and go, okay, I've got 10 minutes until I go to my next appointment, or I'm sitting here in the doctor's waiting surgery. I could watch one of these videos, and so they can actually interact with the course online, because they know, okay, actually this reading's only going to take me 10 minutes. I've got a 10-minute wait. I can do this reading whilst I'm out and about, and all those types of things. So people know where they're at and be able to interact with, whether on Teams or in forums and so on, so that it becomes like a holistic experience, with working with one another, but also taking it on the road with you and being able to use it and not just sit behind a computer. Even some of the videos that they can just put on their phone and they can listen to while they go for a walk in the afternoon and so on. So it's online learning is completely different these days to what it was.
Accessible, isn't it?
So it can become that place where you can actually use it, and in all different places and so on. So so I've really tried to make it so it's not boring, but about really something that is worthwhile for life, no matter where they go.
Let's talk about the content in the course for a moment, because I say to students is that, listen, what's emerging out of the field, no one person can be on top of. And so I say to students, take what grabs you and what's relevant to where you're at today. And if something doesn't grab you, that's okay. Just park it. You'll pick that up later. And so I teach 2 units. The first unit is the introduction to neuroscience, which gives, it starts off with what is neuroscience, what are the myths of neuroscience, what's the history, and giving a basic understanding of the brain and the nervous system. And then the second unit I do, which is a skills unit, which is taking that learning and then what are the skills that go with that, so that we can help people to actually change their brain, change their nervous system, change their thinking patterns. And students always find that really exciting. And particularly I find teachers loving it, because it changes their whole approach to behaviour management, because they've got a different understanding. Talk about the 2 units you teach.
Okay, so yeah, so my first one is the theory of applied interpersonal neuroscience. And in that space, we talk about like the neuroplasticity, what it is. We talk about relationships. We talk about the motivational schemas and consistency theory, those types of things that actually speak to why we are the way we are, even going back to um, our years as we grow up and what formulated those things and why we might respond the way we do to various things, and then what are the pillars that actually make up who we are as a person and so on, and we look at genetics, and just the various foundations of our whole existence and who we are and why we behave and so on. And then the applied neuroscience skills one, which is, sorry, probably my favorite, which then also dovetails out of my PhD, is grabbing those skills that we've learned, or that knowledge of those three subjects that you and I have taught, and then out of that knowledge the students then build a resource that they can use in their own life. So whether it be in their professional life, whether it be in their family life, and so on, and then that becomes something that they can hang their hat on. And they love the creativity that comes out of this, because we all share our ideas and so on along the way, along the journey. And then at the end of that, they have something tangible that they say, this has come from my studies at CHC and my applied neuroscience course. And then they can take it to their workplace. So not only do they love that, or actually a lot of them actually have their own private counselling businesses and so on that they can use in their counselling services, or in each of those, and they're just so chuffed with that. And then of course we have people going, I don't want to stop, I'm so sad that this is finished now. And then they go on to do further study, whether it be some of them are doing their masters, others were saying, oh, can you be my supervisor to do a PhD sort of thing. So they love it. But I mean, I just love seeing people come alive as they're seeing their creation also unfolding, and that they can use.
Real highlight getting to see the resource. And I remember one of the guys, an Indigenous guy who's a pastor, did a didgeridoo explaining brain science. And now what he does is that he actually goes on country with young guys and writes a passage but introduces neuroscience to them. For those listening, is that we're planning to do some videos, so stay tuned. We'll do some interviews of students who've done their resources so that you can actually see what they've done. Some people may have concerns about, this is taught at Christian Heritage College. What about the Christian worldview? Will I be preached that? What would you say to students who may have a concern about, hey, I'm not a Christian, but I am interested? What would you say to them?
Well, just to let you know that at the end of the day, a Christian worldview is built on following the life and the principles of Jesus. Now, if we have a look at Jesus' life, who was he? He was a man of compassion. He was a man of grace. He was a man of love. And he was all about healing people. He was all about bringing people back from the dead. He was all about mental health. And so much of what he talked about was all in the framework of mental health. I mean, I can't believe, as I read the Bible and I look at neuroscience, how much they are, the synergy of the two. I mean, at the end of the day, the Bible's about relationships, and it's about mental health, and it's about emotional regulation and so on. And so much of what I'm learning in neuroscience, and I've had students in my course who are not Christians, and they loved it. But I don't think they need to worry about that at all. If they care about love and relationship and grace and healing, that's all that we do.
We are a Christian university, but we're not preachy, we're not pushy, we're actually wanting to teach applied neuroscience, and so that's really, really important. To sum up, what would you say to people who are contemplating? So maybe there's HR workers, teachers, counsellors, a whole range of people. What would you say, hey, this is what you would probably get out of the course?
I guess at the end of the day, it's all about, you're going to have a deeper understanding of the brain and the neurobiological foundations of behavior and cognition, a much deeper understanding of the power of neuroplasticity and the ability of the brain to change itself and to morph and improve. We also, actually, we haven't talked about this yet, we talk about the neurochemicals and underpinning behavior. So whether it, I guess the detrimental effects of cortisol that is just too much and it causes imbalance, as opposed to dopamine and adrenaline, which can actually help. We talk about the brain-body link and so on. And all of those foundations that actually are applicable to us. We're not going to go into, I guess, fundamental neuroscience where you're not going to understand all of that. That's not applicable. We'll leave that to the neuroscientists who work in the laboratories and things like that. But we talk about, I guess, applied interpersonal neuroscience, which is actually applicable to us. But then the most important thing that people, it might be really good for people to understand is that it actually will help in terms of professional development. So for instance, if you're an educator or a nurse or others, and you have these fundamental mandatory professional development hours that you must meet, here it is in one nice, neat package. You don't have to go to this course or this lecture or this whatever things yes. So you've got it here in one package. You're going to learn modern strategies on how to manage life. Also upskilling. So in this course will provide that upskilling and that transition. Perhaps you're going for a promotion. Well, this course is actually going to help you do it. It may even help you get more pay, because often employers will actually recognize a course like this in a postgraduate certificate. And also currency. If you're in those areas, then you're going to have new currency that you can actually be able to hang your hat on and be able to be better skilled for what you're doing now. So and not to mention that's going to look nice behind your name as well, the nice little letters that you get. So all of those types of things. So there's so much that you can get out of this, not just in your own personal life and in your career, but also on your resume as well. Yeah.
Monique, just for those who were watching this, is that the Graduate Certificate in Applied Neuroscience is a recognised university qualification in Australia. Yeah. And if you want to know more information, coming up will be all the contact details, and you can find out information. And if they're interested, great. They might know somebody else, but we're very passionate about, hence why we're doing this. We want students to know about it, and we've had fantastic feedback from students. We just would like to have a broader audience. And the beauty about this is that it doesn't matter where you're in the world, because it's online learning, you can log in. So we've had students right around Australia, the UK as well. And so anywhere in the world they can join in. So Monique, thank you for taking time to share your passion for the program. And we'll be following up with some more interviews, particularly around the resources that students develop, so that people watching can actually find out this is how it works in application.
Yeah, awesome. It's been great chatting to you. Thank you so much. Okay.